You've seen it everywhere. HDR10, HDR400, 180 Hz, 200 Hz. Sounds impressive, right? But what if I told you most of it is just straight up marketing fluff? In fact, over 80% of people regret their first or even second and third monitor purchase. And it's not their fault. The industry's been feeding us myths for years. So if you're thinking of buying a new monitor, watch this first. This could save you money, time, and a whole lot of disappointment. Lately, I've seen more and more big tech channels hyping up HDR10 budget monitors like they're the best thing ever. But the truth is, they're far from that. The requirements to get the HDR400 label are incredibly low, and people seem to forget that. And here's the thing, HDR10 and HDR400 aren't even real HDR. To get HDR400 certified, a monitor only needs to hit 400 nits of brightness. So yeah, it just gets a bit brighter, and that's about it. Sometimes turning HDR on in these monitors actually makes the image worse, but hey, HDR10 turned into this quality checkbox that everyone looks for, right? So most people never actually experience what true HDR looks like, unless they go for monitors that actually meet real HDR standards. So what does a monitor need to be considered real HDR, you ask? Well, for starters, it needs to meet the requirements for HDR 600 or HDR 1000. That means 600 to 1000 nits of brightness, local dimming is required, true 10-bit color support, and DCI-P3 wide color gamut. Only then will you start to see what a real HDR experience actually looks like. And here's something else. To get that VISA certification, the manufacturer has to actually send the monitor in, pay a fee, and pass all the tests. If it doesn't pass, it doesn't get the badge. Simple as that. Now, what does HDR10 really mean on a monitor? It just means it can decode HDR content. That's it. It doesn't guarantee brightness, color accuracy, contrast, or anything else. And since there's no official body verifying HDR10 for monitors, brands can just slap the label on anything. So like I said, the HDR400 label is so weak that a monitor with it ends up looking nothing like a real HDR screen. And sure, you might hear the other argument, but true HDR monitors are way too expensive. And that's also not true. Take the AOC Q27G3XMN, for example. It goes for like $230 regularly, and honestly, it's a steal if you want great colors and true HDR. It's got local dimming, it meets all the real HDR requirements, and yet some people just brush it off because it uses a VA panel. For some reason, a lot of people are out there spouting that every panel aside from IPS and OLED is just garbage. The worst part, many of them haven't even seen the other panels in person and still believe it. Look, panel choice is individual. What's best for me might not be what's best for you, and vice versa. Every panel has downsides, and every panel has strengths. But for some reason, this belief that IPS and OLED are the ultimate panels has been growing. So let me clear something up. IPS is one of the worst panels when it comes to contrast, and that makes it one of the worst panels to play in a dark room, thanks to the infamous IPS glow. But people who do play in dark rooms still choose it over VAs. Why? Because the colors on a VA panel are always better than the colors of an IPS panel, right? Well, nope. Back in the day, when IPS monitors were becoming more accessible, VAs in the same price range used to have a narrower color gamut, which in turn made them look worse than most IPS monitors. But technology has improved, and now there are budget VAs that look better than some mid to high-end IPS. Of course, like I said, every panel has strengths and weaknesses, and yes, VAs do have worse viewing angles. But let's be honest, no one is watching their monitor at a 90-degree angle anyway. Whether it's VA or IPS, we're usually facing it straight on. Just to be clear, I'm not saying IPS is bad or anything like that. What I want is for you to get the best choice for you without just following someone else's advice. Who knows? Sometimes you can spend less on a VA and still get the best monitor for your budget. Just like IPS panels have the IPS glow as their main downside, VAs have black smearing, which is basically trailing behind dark objects in motion. That might turn competitive players off, so keep that in mind too. Just to quickly summarize, IPS, good viewing angles, but IPS glow and bad contrast. VAs, high contrast ratios, deep blacks, but black smearing. TNs, only good for competitive players thanks to their speed, but poor colors and viewing angles suck. OLEDs, amazing colors, infinite contrast, deep blacks, but burn-in and very expensive. choose wisely. There's also the big number is better effect, where people see those big 180 Hz, 200 Hz numbers even, and they see another monitor with 165 Hz, and instantly think, well, the one with the higher refresh rate has to be better, right? While the 165 Hz one actually has better colors, better specs overall, and a better price, but they still go with the wrong choice. What I'm trying to get at is that you shouldn't base a monitor's worth on a single spec. Like, it should be obvious, but believe it or not, a lot of people do this. It's a common trend that's been flowing with the refresh rate inflation on monitors. Going from 144 Hz to 180 Hz reduces frame time from 6.94 milliseconds to 5.56 milliseconds. That's just over 1 millisecond difference per frame. And guess what? Most people won't even feel that, especially outside of esports. Why does it matter if a monitor has 40 Hz more, but is a ghosting mess, has a poor response time, and is also more expensive? It doesn't add up, right? Remember when 144 Hz monitors became 165 Hz overclocked ones, then 170 Hz, and now 180 Hz? With each of those inflations, manufacturers raised the prices. Now there are even some 200 Hz monitors costing more than 240 Hz ones. Like, it seems like a joke to say out loud, but where are we going with this? Let me know what you think in the comments. And just remember, HDR10 and HDR400 suck. You don't need 180 Hz, and pick your panel wisely. Keep those 3 things in mind, and you'll be part of the 20% who are happy with their new monitor. I guarantee you that. I always talk about the best monitor picks here on the channel, so consider subscribing if that's your thing. Click here to check out the best 1440p monitor picks right now, and here for the best OLEDs. Thanks for watching, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.